What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Spurs have beaten Everton 3-0 at the Hill Dickinson Stadium to be the first team to win at that ground. We go third in the table. Another clean sheet, another good away performance. That's now 4 wins and a draw, I think, away from home for Tottenham this season. I'm here with Marlon from Spurs Kings TV to talk through the game and give our instant match reaction. Marlon, look, going into this game, I wasn't I didn't predict a win.
Yep.
It was, it's a tough place to go. The Everton away, wherever they play, whether it be Goodison or the Hill Dickinson Stadium, it's always a tough place to go, especially under David Moyes. But Tottenham, the way they approached the game, it wasn't the prettiest. It wasn't a free-flowing performance, but it's one of those where you show grit, you show determination. You rely on the kind of basic set pieces, you defend correctly, and we got the job done today.
No, look, if you look at our performances away from home this season, they've all been spot on. Like, apart from even Brighton to a certain extent, and considering how their home record is, every single performance has been literally on point, and it's been the way we've defended, the way attacking, and our play going forward has not been the best, but we seem to be able to, there's a formula. And it seems to be working for Thomas Frank at the moment. And this is the formula that he needs to adjust for the home games. But I'm loving the Bentancur and Paulinho midfield away from home. I'm absolutely loving it because it works. It works exactly how it frustrates the other team. It gives us 2 banks of 4. It doesn't commit men. And actually, if you think about Everton's chances today, it was literally crosses in the box where they're not, apart from the Ndiaye one, which was a straight cross, the rest were had to be played back to the right back and they're swinging it in. Mm-hmm. Danso and Van der Ven were loving that all day. You could tell they would love it. That's what they want. They want you to be swinging it into the box like that because their motto is, we'll get our head to the ball first. But look, the first half an hour of that game, I think the first 5 minutes we were a bit worried because Grealish had his chance. Mm-hmm. But then we started to get into it. I think Bentancur had that little mazy run in the box. And then both teams just kept cancelling each other out. And I think you said on the stream that it was going to take a set piece. Mm-hmm. And we saw the set piece stat and was like, Everton haven't conceded yet. Bang, there goes one. And then we kind of let Everton have the ball again, as we have done in these away games. And then bang, again, another set piece. I think the 5 minutes of stoppage time was the best football we played all season away from home. It was literally, we were intricate. The passes were a bit more quick. It was a bit more fluid. Mawani was getting more involved in the play. And I think that helped the team. You could tell we looked so much more better and compact compared to what we have done in the last few games. And even that was better than our last away game. The away games are getting better as we go on as well, which is so important to the way it's all done. But looking at the whole game, Frank will be pleased with that. He's got to be.
Yeah, I think so. And, to come away from a difficult away grounds with a 3-0 win, clean sheet, and in the manner that we ended up winning the game as comfortably as we did. Now, again, I think there was still issues which I think we've seen in the games when it comes to struggles with our build-up play. Yep. Maybe sometimes being a bit too passive, inviting a bit too much encouragement from Everton during the game. Obviously, we had to rely on Vicario a couple of times, but that's fine. Away from home against a good Everton team, you can't expect Vicario to make saves. He's going to have to make some saves during the game, and he did. Brilliant saves from Beto.
The Beto one was important, because that would have brought him back right into that game at 2-0.
And there was a deflected one from Dewsbury Hall. That was also a really good save, but I think by and large, we dealt with their threat really comfortably, and I think that will be really encouraging to Frank because in midweek against Monaco, we were opened up time and time
again. Yeah. And we were literally on the edge of our seats against Monaco, where today, the chances, even Beto's chance, we were literally not sitting there going, oh my God, it's coming. Where with Monaco, we're like, oh my God, when's it going to come?
Yeah.
But today it was more like the way I thought Danso and Van der Ven were so solid as a 2 that anything that came in their space or their area was dealt with. And then what a lot of people probably didn't see or didn't notice was the fact that Spence, whenever it went over Van der Ven's head or anything, he was there to cover. He was there, he's usually with him, I always go, check your mirrors. But I thought today he actually played really well at that and was there as the final third man when he needed to be. And Porro dealt with Jack Grealish so well after he got booked. It's like he got booked and went, Okay, I'm gonna have to switch it on.
Credit today, Porro, because
Yep.
after the horror he had on Wednesday,
Yeah.
I thought defensively, as you say,
Yeah.
Grealish at times was giving him a tough time, but he didn't let it get to him. He got booked early on, but he didn't kind of let it affect his performance, and he was still making challenges. He was still being solid, and obviously he had a big hand in that third goal right at the end as well, with a really good ball to Richarlison. So I think Porro reacted really well to what was a poor performance, and I think the team did as well.
Yep.
I think yes, we still, I would say, are missing parts in that final third. We're still stodgy. We're still not quite there when it comes to our final third play combinations, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You know, it's all glimpses, but you know, again, it's few and far between. There was that nice little moment in the first half, Wani and Javi linked up in the box, but didn't quite end in anything. But again, it's only sparks, it's flits and sparks.
Yeah.
But we haven't quite seen consistent good play in the final third. But what we do have is a solid structure when it comes to organisation defensively, and when it's not working going forward, you still have that ability to take advantage of set pieces, which we did a couple of times today, and that really paid dividends for us. 2 Van de Ven goals in that first half really changed the game, and you know, I wouldn't say we deserve to be 2-0 up, but that's what you can do when you have that threat.
Yep.
You know, you can maybe get things that maybe your play doesn't deserve, but you're always able to do, and that's what having this threat from set pieces, which we've definitely improved on this season, has given us.
No, definitely. And
Van de Ven, just quickly, Van de Ven seems to really be stepping up. At first, whenever he's been captain, he's really putting a great performance.
His performances, I have to admit, have surprised me, because obviously I've seen Van de Ven for the last 2 years under Ange, and I was always, he's reliant on his pace, not good in the air and things like that. He's a good defender, but he hasn't been tested in a low block system. And then kind of in Europe last year wasn't his best games. I used to think Romero was the one who came out the shining light, but since he's been given the armband the last few weeks, and whatever Frank's doing to him, where he hasn't had to run, do you think he's starting to, because he's not having to run, he's not worried about his hamstrings, which means then he's able to play his game a little bit more, and he's not worried that he's going to get injured now? He's literally being able to play a complete different game.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, because he's not asked to cover the large amount of spaces he was last season, I think we're seeing that more kind of box defending, which maybe in the last couple of years we haven't seen him do too much. And when he has been asked to do it, he's lost his marker, or he's been beaten in the air and all those kind of things. And I think Frank's clearly worked on that a lot with him, and he's much better at getting blocks in. He's much better at getting clearances. So the basics of defending, he's clearly much improved. We know when it comes to pace and stuff like that, he's absolutely world class. And you see today, he's much more of a threat in the air from set pieces.
Yeah, which I don't expect from him.
Yeah, because he's, we know he's very tall and
he's
big physically, but set pieces is something we haven't seen him be too much of a threat. And Frank has clearly been working on that. And I said before the game, Frank, after the West Ham game, after we scored from I think it was from a throw, he scored with his feet, and Frank told him, next time I want you to score with your head. And he did that twice today, and I think clearly, he said that for a reason, because that's something we've been working on. He said, look, you're doing it in training, you're getting your head on things, and you're scoring goals. I want to see that in the match. And he did that today. He did that twice. 2 brilliant moments from him, 2 really well worked set pieces. And that was obviously, I think that was pretty much the difference today, because obviously they got their goal from a set piece in the first half, which was ruled out, I think, correctly. O'Brien headed home, but in dying, Grealish clearly in offside positions, clearly interfering with play. Not controversial. I think it was a right decision from the referee. And I think that was the difference, because we had 2 goals to hang on to in that second half. And if we're being honest, that second half wasn't an easy watch. I think we dealt with their threat fairly comfortably. I think they had a couple of moments, Beto and the deflected shot, which obviously Vicario had to deal with. But apart from that, we were fairly comfortable defending, guys. But it seemed as though at points we were letting the game drift away, and we were too comfortable defending the lead, which is good and bad, because obviously last season or seasons gone by, we wouldn't be comfortable in those positions defending the lead. It will kind of be like, we'll try and see it out, but we look like we're going to concede at any moment. But today, we decided to defend it seemed, and we were comfortable doing that, which is a good thing in that essence. But you don't want to kind of be in that mode where you're just defending and not being a threat going forward. And I think too much of that was happening today. But didn't matter. We got the third goal as well near the end, and that sealed the game. And you got to give credit to Thomas Frank, because it's not an easy place to go. To go there, keep a clean sheet, be the first team to win there, and also to be as comfortable as we were, is a credit to him.
So obviously started off with Brennan Johnson on the right. We think Kudos was playing inside right, kind of central with Xavi on the left.
Yeah, it was an interesting kind of setup today. Johnson was kind of in a hybrid, either striker or wide right position. Kudos was like in a hybrid right or 10 position. Xavi was pretty much purely a number on the left. On the left.
Yeah.
Did it work? I think it's definitely a work in progress. There were some good elements. I think Johnson looked
comfortable, yeah. I think that was out of all of it. Johnson looked more comfortable. I think Kudos kind of got confused a little bit about what his role was, and he kind of didn't know whether to step back, go right, come in central, and that. It kind of messed with his game a little bit, because he wants to always take on the man, and sometimes he just needs to play that quick pass around the corner, like he started to do in the second half a little bit.
We didn't see him enough involved, I guess. Because we know when he was on the right, we just. Basically, our game plan is get the ball to Kudos and get him to create something. Yeah. And he's just getting so many touches and he's so involved. When today, I don't know, I think maybe he got a bit lost about where he should be. I think maybe at the end of the day, it's the first time he played it, so it might be a work in progress. I'm trying to think, did it help us in build-up playing that way? Was it because I think maybe that was the thinking? If we get Kudos more central, maybe he's someone who could hang on to the ball a bit more in those tight areas, and he won't get bullied off the ball maybe like some of our other players in that position. And maybe having him can allow us to sustain our play in the final third, get Johnson a bit wide right or a bit more where he's comfortable in that position, and maybe get Xavi kind of floating on the left. I understood the idea. I don't know if it quite worked today in terms of going forward. Obviously you had Moani in there as well. I thought he did okay. I thought there were some good things, but again, was he much of a goal threat? Probably not, and that's obviously something we have to look at. I think I didn't mind it, but I still think, if we wouldn't have won today, you would have said it's a problem.
Of course, yeah. If I said to you that this time next week we've got Chelsea, who's starting up front for you? Tell Moani or Richarlison. Who would you pick after seeing Moani today for 60 minutes? Yeah, you give Moani
another go, I think. He had an hour today. I think clearly he's still building up his fitness, but there was some moments, some nice touches.
That's what I thought,
That was really good. I think he's just more of a competitor when he's building up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I liked what I saw from Moani at times. Again, like I say, if we didn't score those set-piece goals, we're probably saying, Moani didn't do enough and stuff like that. But because we win, we look at things in a positive light, which is good. Obviously, Richie came on and had a chance, but and obviously didn't take it. But Moani didn't have a chance at all. So you can
argue.
People in the comments, Vicario, brilliant performance from him again. Back to back.
Two great performances from Vicario.
We got a clean sheet, and I think that save from Beto was absolutely phenomenal. That one-handed save as well from the deflected shot.
The deflected shot was a great save.
Fantastic, and I think he deserves a lot of credit today for getting us that clean sheet, and also how he's responded to the amount of criticism he's got.
He was getting. I was one of them. I'm gonna not shy away from it. I was one of them giving him criticism. I didn't say he needed to be dropped. I'm not one of those, because at the end of the day, I said, for me, I still need to see Kingsky in the back four that we've got to see if it's any better. But no, great from Vicario today. The only thing I'd just say is that the crosses that came in from corners, he just needs to be a bit stronger, because apart from these punch at the end, the rest of them, he kind of was all over the place a little bit, flapping at it. But he's shot stopping, second to none, and he was absolutely brilliant today. If it was between him and Mickey to get man of the match, it was between those two, and Danso followed behind. But yeah, look, still got issues going forward line, but question, the longer this goes on, is it sustainable that we can keep these performances up away from home? Because we're not doing nothing up top, but...
You mean results-wise?
Results-wise.
I mean... Obviously, if we keep scoring set pieces, fine. But the problem is, can you rely on that? Are the set piece goals going to dry up? And I think we saw it with Arsenal, really, where they were obviously going through a great period. and it still are at the moment, where they were scoring loads of set pieces and winning games.
They scored another one today.
And then then they went through a period where they didn't, where they went 5, 6, 7 games without a goal from a set piece, and then the results started to dry up. So I think it's great as long as the goals keep flowing from those. I don't mind if we're defensively solid. We take the goals from the set piece, and that's that. But I think I'd like to be more of a threat from open play. I think that's obviously something we have to work on. Now, Frank says we're working on it. He says that that's something that he knows needs to improve, and I do think that will come once the attack starts to gel, and once there's more time. You've got to remember, today was Moani's first start.
Yeah, no, that's why I was...
We're trying different things in the front line. Brennan, have we played that front line together? No. Kudus, Brennan, Javi, Moani, all these things.
That's why it was interesting to see, yeah, because if we're looking for goals, you need to, at the present moment, unfortunately, and a lot of people won't like this, but Brennan Johnson's got to play if we want to look for goals, because that's where the goals are coming from last year.
And there's this guy, Olusa Joshua, makes a good point. The open play third goal was good as well, and that was a well worked, and that was in open play, so that was good. But I agree. I think I watch us, and I think I'm not saying overly impressed with how we play, but we seem to be able to get the job done. I'm impressed with the set pieces.
Yep.
I think that's clearly something we've worked on.
Oh, big time.
And it's clearly something that's paying off because we're getting goals from there. But there's still a lot of things, I think, when it comes to how we build up that we're struggling with, and it seems though we're playing for set pieces a lot of the time. Like,
that's what
comes to the box and we try and win the corner rather than create the chance.
Well, that's what I think we tried to do, and this is why when you say we're talking about the front three, I think that's what we were trying to do. We got a lot of corners from the Kudos, Brennan Johnson on that right hand side, and then when Javi or Thing was trying to do the cross, they were getting corners instead of actually trying to whip it into the box. So it's maybe that was the plan.
I think part of it, and I think when it comes to those long throws, I think a lot of it isn't even. We don't even whip it in. I think to try and score.
No,
we whip it in
to get the
win
corner,
because it heaps pressure on the defence, and it means you're more likely to win something off it. And obviously, we're a big threat at the moment from corners, and teams are struggling. Today they struggled.
Yeah.
So, look, it's good as long as you're winning and as long as you're getting the result.
Yeah.
I think those are things. I think when it comes to sustainability over the long term, I think if you have that solid defensive foundation, it's always going to help you.
Yeah.
But if you're obviously going to, at the moment we are third, so it's great. But if you're going to become a top team, obviously you need to be a lot better on the ball and in build up. That has to improve massively. But I think you got to give it a chance. Obviously, it's not going to, after 9 games, you're not going to. I know, after 9 games you could see the vision with Ange, obviously at that point. But I think when you're doing what Frank's trying to do, when you're trying to put the building blocks in, and I think the more important thing, when you've got that new front line all trying to gel, I think it's going to take a bit of time for that to show. But I'm struggling a bit to see the vision of how we're trying to play the game in open play, to be honest, at the moment. I don't know what we're trying to do. It's like we're just trying to play out wide, and at the moment it's a bit predictable in terms of how we approach the game in open play. We're playing a lot of long balls, and a lot of the time we're not making it stick. It seems as though we're playing for set pieces, but it worked today, and it's not easy to go to these places. And to be fair, while we're saying all this, like the struggles, we are still picking up results, and that's a credit to Frank.
Yeah, as long as we're picking up results.
But then again, it is only away from home. At home, there's still those problems.
Big test. It's a big test in the league next time around there. Yeah,
but you know what? He played Bentancur and Paulinho together again today, and it seemed to pay off. And I actually thought Bentancur obviously got an assist for the goal, and he played really well today. Yeah. I thought it was one of his better games in recent weeks.
I like Bentancur. I like him
too.
I'm not one of the ones scapegoating him because I don't think it's all his fault.
I thought he did really well today, Bentancur, and I thought he had a really solid outing. But
and then Paulinho, after about 60 minutes, just came to his own. Yeah.
I'm looking at the table, third in the league. When it comes to away form, we're top. 4 points clear of Arsenal. When it comes to home form, we're 17th.
Oh, wow.
Which is mad to think about. We have awful home form. We have only Arsenal have conceded less than Tottenham this season in the Premier League.
Not surprising.
So we have the second best defence in the league, and also and I think at the moment, from what I can see, we're the top goal scorers.
Us and someone else. I can see.
We're
someone
level.
else.
We're level with City and Chelsea.
Chelsea.
So we have the second best goal difference to Arsenal. So we're actually the joint top goal scorers. So for me to say we're not quite clicking up front and we're the joint top goal scorers.
Have we even had a penalty this year? I don't think we have. Did we have one?
No, I don't think we had
I can't even remember thinking of that. So that's not bad when you think about it. If we're not having that many penalties as well. So
yeah. So look, you've got to give credit to Frank. He's got to find a way of us to score while we're struggling to create chances. I guess is one way.
You got to look at it like that. Yeah, if we're scoring that many and we're terrible as a front three at top, but we're still scoring goals. Credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Look, he's doing a great job, Frank, and I think he's implementing his way of playing. It's not easy to do, to come in to a new club, and there's been a lot of change at Tottenham, and I think he's creating a bit of stability. He's just got to look at. He said he made some structural changes today and all that kind of stuff. He said that before the game, and I think you could see that those changes. I would still say, we still had our struggles. I think the difference between us today and let's say a game like on Wednesday is we got those goals from set pieces and had something to hang on to.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't get those moments, could it turn into a game where in that second half we struggled a bit? Whereas today we had that cushion to hang on to.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it paid dividends for us. And obviously we got the goal late on. And I always felt comfortable in the game, even at 2-0. I always felt comfortable. I never thought... There was maybe a 5 minutes period where Better had that chance, and leading up to that chance, they were building a bit of dominance.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But once he made that save, I just felt comfortable.
It was a comfortable showing, yeah.
Back at the game.
I think that's the thing. I think I'm not sitting here like... 3-0 flattered us a little bit when we think about it.
I don't think it was a 3-0 game.
It's not a 3-0 game, but at the same time, I'm not sitting there thinking... I was on the edge of my seat worrying that Everton were going to score.
It's not like we got away with one today.
That's the thing. Like where with previous managers, sometimes we did think like that. And at the moment, look, away from home, it's the best time to go watch Spurs. Just don't watch us at home.
Yeah, it's different. It's a weird one to analyse. I think you can see kind of what he's trying to do, Frank, when it comes to off the ball.
Yeah,
I can see the vision there. On the ball, apart from the set pieces, I'm not quite seeing it just yet. But maybe that's going to take time to come. But my point is, when you're still having the struggles that I'm saying we're having, and we're still able to go away to a side like Everton and come through win 3-0 and still be the top goal scorers right now in the Premier League, or joint top goal scorers, then you've got to say he might be onto something.
He might be. Well
you
put.
Know what I mean?
No, well put. He might be onto something. You just got to be patient because Poch, if everyone wants to talk about that's the best time we had, Poch at the beginning of his reign was just as bad.
Yeah, it's also true.
Yeah, he was just as bad. Well, away from home, we weren't great. At home, we were indifferent. If I remember correctly, we were so indifferent. So, and that's why I've got to look at it and go, maybe I just got to be patient with Frank, like I was with Poch.
If I look at just quickly some stats of the game, Everton had a bit more possession. The XG 1.53 to Everton and 2.08 to Spurs. So we did win that XG battle. I do think, though, obviously predominantly from set pieces. If I look at, let me see, if I look at the set piece XG today, I reckon it'll be, see if I've got it here. Stats. So here you go. So XG open play XG Everton 1.2, Tottenham 0.78. Obviously mostly probably from Sar's goal.
Sar's goal. Yeah.
And then the set play XG 0.3 for Everton, 1.3 for Tottenham. So so I think that tells the story.
It's telling it's painting a picture at the moment. But at least we know. The thing is, it's always easier to improve your attack than it is to improve your defensive side of things. I always think when you're
100%. You think it's easy to improve the attack?
So when you have got a bad defense, it's always harder to try and improve that than it is when you've got a good defense and not a great attack. I always think the attacking part will always come later. I've always thought that. I don't know about you, but I always think it's like
I've always thought it's harder to improve your attack than your defense.
No, I find it's the other way around because to improve your defense, if you got a great attack, like we were under Ange, he just couldn't improve that defensively, he just couldn't do it. But once you've got the base and you've got a defensive you can be solid in that way. I always find it with Chelsea under Mourinho. They were always great defensively, but they just always missing that bit in attack, and then they proved it. They used to get certain players in, and then it used to click in for them later on.
I feel like the hardest thing to improve is always getting your attack to be free flowing and stuff like that.
But it's easy. But it's,
that's the hardest thing, because what defend managers, when they're fighting relegation and they come in, fire managers, what's the first thing they do? They get that defence sorted and they get it organised, because they know that's the quickest and easiest way to kind of get points on the board. But is organising that defence.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying I think it's easier than getting your team scoring goals again. I think you first of all you rely on quality.
But when you go defensive though, this is the only thing. When you go defensive like that, like you said, it's easier to get points on the board, but you'll always score.
Well, yeah.
At some point, you'll always score, no matter how great you're not in attack. Where we've scored 17 goals and we're not even great in attack. So it's probably that side.
That's because we worked on those set pieces.
Whereas if we were so bad defensively, it's harder to keep clean sheets. It's always harder to keep clean sheets, and that's where I think this is where Frank's going with it. That's why I think a lot of people, if you can go with that way first, because attacking, you'll always, as weeks go on, it will always become. And look, it's the only thing we need to improve on now. We'll see how it works out.
Well, look, do go show Marlon some love on Spurs Kings TV. I think there's a link in the description.
Yes, it is.
So go and show him some love, and go subscribe to Marlon, because he's done well on the watch along today. He's done well on the instant match reactions. So go, want to see more of him and Ash as well. Obviously, go over to Spurs Kings TV.